What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today, I got one of my good friends, Slade, on here. He's a Bay Area native. I'm excited to have him on here. We met in high school. We've been friends ever since. I know he's a huge Warriors fan, so we had to bring him on for the Golden State Warriors breakdown and season predictions. So you'll get my takes as well as his. So without further ado, let's get into it. Slade, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on today. I love talking basketball, especially Warriors basketball. Is my guys. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun chat about it. Got some big expectations for this season with my team. So yeah, let's get right into it.
Heck yeah, dude. So last year we saw Curry come out, have an amazing season, averaged 32 points a game, led the league in that regard. Probably had his best season since his MVP season.
Yeah.
Do you think he got snubbed, or do you think he didn't really deserve it because of the team ranking and everything?
Yeah, I mean, the way that MVPs always go is a lot of it is based on narrative, and a lot of it is based on where you stand in the in the playoff picture. And obviously the Warriors missed the playoffs because of the plans. So I don't think, I mean, at least in recent time, there hasn't been a guy who win the MVP that hasn't made the playoffs. So I understand why he didn't win it. Like, although his numbers were probably the best he's had in his career, a lot because he's had to play a lot of like independent ISO ball. Like, I understand why he didn't get it, and the fact that Jokic was the 3 seed, right? 3 or 4
Yeah,
seed.
two or three.
Yeah. So, and every guy who's won it in the past years has been at least like a 2, 3, 4 seed. I think Westbrook's year he was a 5 or 6 seed, but averaging a triple double, like you got to get it. So the fact that they missed the playoffs and everything, and the team around him just wasn't strong enough to support that play, like, I understand why he didn't get the MVP, but I'm still happy with his numbers. Like, another scoring title to his name, still like, helping his legacy in the long run. I mean, it was a fantastic season. It'll be interesting to see like how much longer he can put out that level of mass shooting and being able to play ISO ball and be as crafty as he's been. He's gaining the years. He's 33 now, I believe.
Yeah, 32, 33. He's
Yeah,
getting up there in basketball age.
I mean, what's nice about him being a shooter is that's going to stick as he gets older. He's still, even if he loses those handles and that quickness, like, he's still going to be able to shoot the ball. And if any, another young stars show up on the Warriors, he can be more of a, like a spot up shooter type guy, Kyle Korver type guy, but he's still going to be Steph Curry.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely agree with that. Do you think we see Curry kind of replicate those numbers, or do you think we see him take a dip from last season?
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. With Clay coming back, and I know he's not supposed to come back until probably about halfway through the season or so, because of his injury. I think a lot of it will have to do with how involved Clay is in the offense, and also some of the other young scorers like Jordan Poole. He's getting up there in age. They might move him into a more prominent role this year, probably still coming off the bench, but if he's starting to get more minutes or potentially playing those 2 guards at the same time, it may take away some of the volume from Curry, potentially, especially with Clay coming back when he comes back. But I think that'll only benefit him in terms of like efficiency and everything. You got other great shooters out there with Clay, and I mean, Wiggins is a fine shooter if he plays this year. But, the more good pieces around him, the less he's going to actually have to be forced to shoot the ball. So we may see a dip in terms of like his total points, but I think especially if Clay can integrate back into the offense the way he's been, as long as he's been healthy, I think that we'll see Curry's efficiency go up a little bit, just because he's not going to be forced to take as many contested double covered shots and whatnot. So I think, maybe a little bit lower in terms of points per game, but a little bit higher in efficiency.
Yeah, I totally agree there, especially when we get Clay back. We're going to see him coming back either late this year or early next year. Today they came out and said that they think maybe a January timeline. So we'll see when we get Clay back. I know the basketball world's dying to have him back out there.
Right.
As Warriors fans, but all the basketball world. And he's another one of those guys that, like you mentioned with Curry, he's a shooter, and that's going to benefit him, even coming off these 2 injuries that back-to-back kept him out full seasons. He's a shooter, and as long as he's got that natural upper body motion still, he's gonna be able to go out there and contribute right away when he comes back, even though he's missed 2 full seasons.
Oh, absolutely.
So you mentioned Andrew Wiggins a little earlier. You said if he plays. For those who don't know, there's currently an issue with Andrew Wiggins and getting vaccinated. He's trying to cite religious reasons for not being vaccinated. The NBPA is denying that request. So we might not see Wiggins play this season unless he gets vaccinated. I know he's not going to be allowed to play in Warriors home games, as they're in San Francisco, and California is much stricter about this stuff than other states are. So what do you think the impact is if Andrew Wiggins is not on the floor?
I mean, unfortunately, yeah, like when that news started breaking about Wiggins not wanting to get the vaccine, I was, pretty disappointed, because he, I believe, is a key factor in this team right now. He just had, as far as I know, the most efficient season of his career with the Warriors. I think he's had higher volume scoring seasons with the Timberwolves, but of course he's the number 2, number 3 option on the Warriors, and playback he'll be number 3, number 4 option. So, it's kind of devastating. He's a really good defensive presence. I think he really stepped up. Borderline all pro or all defensive team this year. I felt like he probably was somewhere in the mix. He has the potential to reach that point, especially with the, playing with Draymond Green is only going to help him and help him get better defensively. I think that he's turning into a really solid 2-way player. He can get you average you 15, 16 points a game, really, which is pretty important. That's significant points a game. And he's shown a lot of times this past season to be pretty reliable whenever Curry's shots aren't falling or whenever Curry's not able to get open. He's a really good one to dish it to get some good points and also to lead that second unit out there. So I think if he misses a big portion of the season or potentially the whole season, it could be really devastating to the team, because I mean, he's a really, really solid 3 spot. Obviously not as good as KD, but comparing the potential starting 5 for this year to the 2016 team when Harrison Barnes was on the team, I think Wiggins is an upgrade from Harrison Barnes pretty significantly. And obviously the rest of the guys are 5 years older, and Iguodala is a shell of a man at this point. But I think, yeah, the Wiggins vaccine thing, if he still holds out on that, could be pretty devastating. And also to some of the other teams, I know Jonathan Isaac on the Magic has been holding off, and I believe Kyrie, right?
He's not willing to disclose his vaccination status, so we don't know if he's vaccinated or not.
Right, because that'll, I mean, obviously the NBA will know at one point or another, but him missing the Nets, as we saw, last year, I know we're talking about the Nets, was pretty significant for their playoff performance. So just the league in general, I hope they figure out a consensus, whether it's let the guys play or really urge them to get the vaccine. I know one of the reports I saw with Wiggins was, they brought him in, had him speak to some doctors about the vaccine and why they encouraged him to get it, and he still was refusing to, which, I just want to see the guy play, right? He can only help our team, and that's a lot of money left on the table if he's not playing as well, cap space. So I think it's really crappy that
they can keep him out of the league because he's not getting a shot. But I guess it is what it is. NBA is their own entity, so I guess they can enforce whatever rules they want to there. But I do think that's kind of crappy. But like you mentioned, he's a pretty reliable scorer. He's averaged, I think, almost 20 a game in almost every season that he's played, especially since coming to Golden State. And he's one of those guys that he can defend decently well. He can make the shots when it's needed. And like you said, I think that Harrison Barnes to Wiggins comparison, as far as the role they play on the Warriors, obviously Wiggins is a little bit smaller. Barnes was a better defender, but Wiggins is a better offensive player. So I think that comparison is really good. But I don't think we're obviously not going to see another team go 73-9 or like that for a while. But I think that's a solid comparison as far as the role that they're going to play on this team. And then talking about players that have been there since that 2015-16 squad, we got Draymond Green here. And I think people hate on him so much because he's not a scorer. He can't really shoot the 3-ball like that at all. But he knows how to facilitate, and he's most importantly a leader in that locker room and on the court. And I think that's the most important thing right now for him. And I think they really got to let him pour into these young guys that they're bringing in. You got James Wiseman, who's going into his second year. You got Jonathan Kuminga, and you got Moses Moody that they just drafted both in the lottery. So you got a lot of young guys coming in, and I think letting Draymond be the voice of this team and letting him really pour into these players is going to be so important for this team. So what do you feel on Draymond's leadership? You like it? He's a little bit of a tough love type of guy we saw with Wiseman last year.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, he's his influence on guys, like you can tell Draymond's like a future coach type player. He, yeah, like you said, tough love type of guy, but he really cares about helping these young guys become the best players they can be. And a lot of the big thing with college players coming in is their offensive skill set is already really strong, but a lot of it is their defensive skill set is what's lacking for most guys. And
minus Davion Mitchell.
One of those, yeah. And he struggled last year getting into foul trouble. And they say, that the biggest learning curve position is the center spot, that the guys who come in as a center usually don't play well. And I think that a really good example of that is DeAndre Ayton. He got drafted back with Trae Young and Luka Doncic. And, he kind of was left out of the limelight because of how great they played off the bat. But we finally see, third year in, third, I believe. Yeah. Him showing up and, putting up, what was he putting up? 10 and 10 in the playoffs?
At least.
Yeah. It was awesome.
He was going nuts some games. He was down 20 boards in some games.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And he's looked awesome. And, it's taken a couple of years for him to step into that role. But I think that we could see a similar thing from James Wiseman. It's just a tricky timetable because you want to get that production out of him as soon as possible. So we got guys who are ready to win another chip. But Wiseman might not be ready for that role yet. But I think that, with his Achilles injury last season, it stinks because he's missed I believe he's supposed to miss some training camp, which I know is a big spot for a lot of that Draymond Green influence to show up on some of these young guys. And for him to miss that kind of developmental stuff is going to be trickier for him. And he's going to have to, hit it faster in the season and make sure that he's working and developing as well as getting those minutes as much as he can. But I'm also excited to see those, Kuminga and Moody pull in and how much Draymond and the rest of the team can help those guys. Because, I mean, you look at these rookies, these guys who are really solid players coming out of college, and, they're playing with two of the greatest shooters of all time. And you've also got, like, one of the better defenders of all time and, of course, one of the best defensive minds of all time on a team. So it can only help these guys, and I hope that, this veteran presence can help these young guys really step into these roles and become solid role players and eventually potentially stars in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the rookie contributions are going to be huge for this team because I feel like you don't really invest 2 lottery picks when I'm sure they could have traded it for something else, some kind of veteran that could come in and step in right away. So I really feel like they're gonna be believing in these rookies. They're going to be putting the ball in their hands right away. They may not get major minutes right off the bat, but they're going to be wanting these rookies to go out there, score the ball, do their thing. And I noted in my notes, I put James Wiseman must play with confidence, but I feel like that's also going to be the same for Kuminga and Moody. They're all going to have to go in there. They're going to have to play with confidence, and I feel like Draymond's going to be that guy that goes out there and puts it in them. Curry's going to be the guy passing the ball around, facilitating that, him and Draymond both, and they're going to be the ones really trying to encourage these younger players to go out there and do their thing. And we've seen that this Warriors team knows how to play team basketball through their 2015 through whatever run, 2017-18, I think is when they stopped going to the championship.
I think it was 2018 or 2019.
Yeah, somewhere around there. But all the time it was team basketball. It was never just give it to Steph and let him shoot. It was never just give it to Kevin Durant and let him shoot. So they're going to go out there, and I think they're going to be hoping that these guys contribute right away. And another guy you mentioned who's still relatively young is Jordan Poole. He's a dude that's shown that he can score. He's developed each and every year. He's been in the league. He's in his 3rd year, I think, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure 3rd year.
Yeah, so he's another guy that can go out there and score the ball. So I don't think there's going to be a ton of pressure on these guys, like knowing that they're the one that have to do the scoring. But they're going to be able to go out there and do it. The opportunities are going to be there for sure.
Yeah, and really a good opportunity. One of Steve Kerr's, I feel like, strong suits is really maximizing his lineups and different selections of lineups. Like he plays the small ball lineups really well, So I think there'll be some great opportunities for these young guys to get minutes with, the big dogs out there. Like you might have some of these young guys getting to play with Steph and Draymond in a possession, 2-2, and then Wiggins, or 2-2 and then Clay. So it'll be really cool to see, the mix and matches that they throw in with these different lineups, and where they throw them in the games, and who to match them up against, and how to, maximize the development of these rookies, and get them as efficient as possible and as effective as possible, so that they can contribute enough to potentially lead this team to another chip in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this team's in a great place as far as their mix of veterans and young players go. And like you said, like it's not a rush right now. It's not, they've got to go win a championship this year, but they can set, like these young guys can help set up that team in 2 to 3 years in the future.
Right.
All right. So our last thing here, we're going to give our season predictions. I'm going to let you go first, but you got to let us know before you give your prediction. Are you coming from an optimistic Warriors fan standpoint, or are you coming from a realistic Warriors fan standpoint, or do both of those work together right now?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have a range, maxing out as an optimistic fan, bottoming out as, a realistic fan. And knowing this team and knowing how much playoff experience these guys have, I think that we can realistically put up a great performance in the playoffs, regardless of the seed that we have. We've done it in the 1 seed. Most of the time in the 1 seed, but we've played without the home court advantage before, and we've done well in those series. So I think that in terms of season standings, I look at us probably falling somewhere from 4 to 6, just because of how much crazy competition there is in the West right now. You got the Lakers, you got the Suns, you got the Jazz, the Nuggets. I don't see the Blazers getting a high seed this year, but you got those 4 teams. The Clippers with Kawhi injured, who knows how that's going to happen, but he might come back and they pull in. I see them fall into a later seed, but I see at least those 4 teams that I named probably coming in above the Warriors, being realistic. So I see us falling around 5 or 6, but with that in mind, I could totally see us making a run at least to the conference finals. The biggest competition is going to be that stacked Lakers team, and we don't know how that chemistry is going to be yet with them, given that they're all grandfathers playing together. But, there's so much talent on that team any given night, and so many different guys who have the ability to just destroy you. It'll be great, and a lot of playoff experience there too, but a lot of playoff experience with these Warriors as well. So I think that we haven't seen the Warriors make a playoff run since 2019 with the Raptors, and everything was going great for them until the injuries hit. So I definitely see this team optimistically making the conference finals, but I don't see us falling in a top 3 seed, being realistic.
Okay, that actually goes perfectly along with mine, just about, minus the conference finals part. But I had y'all down as a 6 seed when I made my little mock playoff bracket.
Yeah.
So I've got the Warriors down as a 6 seed. I see them falling somewhere around there. And I see them probably about a 2nd round exit team. Like you said, I don't think the seeding is really going to matter for this team when it comes playoff time. Because this is a team that has experience. They have players that are going to get hot. They're probably not going to have the best first half of the season record, because like we said, Clay's not going to be there right off the bat. Mm-hmm. They're going to be easing him back into it. So I think this is a team that's going to get that second half push, especially after the All-Star break. I really think that's when they get hot. They should easily be able to get a playoff spot regardless of where it is. And then that playoff experience between Steph and Clay and Draymond and Iguodala, those dudes know what it's like to get a championship. So they should at least be able to carry them past a first round series, regardless of who it's against. I believe. So that's my predictions for this team. Do you have any other closing thoughts before we wrap it up here?
We pretty much talked about just about everything. It'll be an interesting season, and I feel like a big factor is just going to be how well Clay can come back, and whether or not Andrew Wiggins can play. Those are the 2 most important things. Curry's going to get his no matter what. Draymond's going to be the anchor no matter what. It's just whether Clay can integrate back in the system, which I really think he will. The biggest hit he might take is defensively, and whether or not Andrew Wiggins is going to be able to play a big portion of this season is really important as well. But I'm optimistic. This is the first. Well, this season of all seasons, I feel like we have a real chance to be back towards the top again, which I'm really excited about.
Yep. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you hopping on here. If everyone would like to give this video a like, comment on the video, subscribe if you're new, we would really appreciate it here. That is our breakdown and season prediction for the Golden State Warriors, and I hope to catch y'all on the next video. Peace out.